Good morning. So, before we begin the next chapter, there was one verse left which we couldn't do last week because instead of doing the Bhagavad Gita, we were trying to finish the Uddhav Gita. So now I will do this verse. This is from chapter 12, verse 20. It's a summarization, so let us do that verse. Those devotees, however, who partake in a disinterested way of this nectar of pious wisdom set forth above, endowed with faith and solely devoted to me, they are extremely dear to me. An entire episode of 19 verses was done only about devotion, the path of devotion. And this path of devotion tells us exactly how we have to go about meeting Krishna. It is nothing but being in love with Him and being totally devoted to Him. That is the only reason of our existence. But then, there are deeper questions which people want to know, so that is why the chapters are going ahead. But here Krishna is saying, we have done this entire chapter based on the devotional path, and this path is the most sweetest and the one that I recommend. Krishna's recommendation is this path, and that is why you have to do it. So it says, I have explained this whole thing. The wisdom has been explained to you. Now the only thing that you need to do is have complete faith. Have faith in the Divine Lord and progress ahead. There were 4 words which I had already told you on this. First was called the unflinching faith. That is absolute faith. Second one is called complete surrender, total surrender at the feet of the Lord. Third one is called unconditional love. And the fourth one was called single pointed devotion. Don't forget these words, these are important words. And this is the way in which you can reach the destination, the path. So when you are following this path and you are devoted to me, you will reach me. Then you are the dearest to me. And this way the chapter had ended. Thus in the Upanishad, the sung by the Lord, the science of Brahma, the scriptures of yoga, the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna ends the 12th chapter entitled the Yoga of Devotion. So this is the last chapter which we have concluded now. Now we will start a very, very important chapter. This is chapter 13 from the Bhagavad Gita. Why is this chapter so important? Please remember one thing. The whole knowledge of spiritual is an esoteric knowledge. This knowledge makes us reach from a crass human nature of ours to the divine nature. We are an essence of the Lord, and how we can go from being an average human being to becoming one with the Lord. It is the final goal. It is the ultimate destination of every human being to do their duty in the world while being devoted to the Lord. That means you are not doing the duty for yourself, you are doing it for the Lord. Because you have come to this world, you have taken birth, you have taken a body for a specific purpose. And this is a very deeper question. People ask this question quite often. What is the meaning of life? And this question is so valid because nobody knows. The answer is, the meaning of life is, you have been given this life so that you can perform certain tasks in this world. That those tasks are defined by the God, by God Almighty, by Krishna Himself. Your job is to fulfill those tasks. That means do your duty. And while doing your duty for Krishna, for the Divine Lord, you will become one with Him. That is the meaning of life. Some of you may not accept it. You may say, but this is a very low-key kind of an explanation and you are bringing religion into the picture. Well, let me clarify that for you. When you join a company or you are writing a book, you are doing some videos, you are doing a podcast, you are getting married, you are growing up, you are going to some school or college. Why are you doing it? There is a reason behind doing all these things, isn't it? Think about it. There is a reason why you're doing it. You are joining a company so that you can earn a living, right? You can grow in your career. You are doing some courses so that you get more knowledge in that subject matter. You are getting married because you want marital happiness, you want children, you want a family. There are ulterior motives in everything in this world. So when you ask the question, what is the meaning of all this? There is always an end destination. That goal and destination is so critical for everybody, isn't it? You don't want to join a college because you have to get the knowledge. You are joining the college not only to get the knowledge but to top it, to be the best in the business. Isn't that what you want? You want a husband or a wife who is the best example of a husband or a wife. You don't want mediocre people, right? You want to buy a house or you want to buy a car, the best that the money can buy, whatever you can afford. Isn't that the reason? Exactly. If that is the reason for you to do certain things, don't you think in a similar manner God has sent you in this world to be the best version of yourself? Right? And you are specific for a job or a purpose. So you have a purpose in life. Why are you here? God has sent you for a certain reason. Fulfill that reason. You have a job to do. There are certain duties to be performed, and to be the best version of yourself, you have to put in a lot of efforts. I hope you got the answer. So this chapter 13, is a very important chapter to understand the reason for our existence and who are we. And who is this person that we keep on talking about? Who is this God? Now I will tell you a small story before I begin this chapter. Chapter 13 is like a very, very difficult middle. See, it's in the middle, right in the middle of the whole Bhagavad Gita. It's a difficult one, I can tell you. But it so happened, there was a great saint called Sant Jnaneshwar. Now Sant Jnaneshwar would go to different places giving expositions on this beautiful scripture. Jnaneshwari. is a very important scripture. It is an explanation of all these things. Now, Sant Jnaneshwar was giving an exposition, giving a satsang on Bhagavad Gita. Strangely, when he came to this chapter, he was very standoffish. He said, it's a very easy thing, you know. And he went on prattling like I am doing. See, last 10 minutes I'm just prattling, I'm just talking about it. So he just kept on going and going and going and going. And his brother had to stop him. His brother is his guru. Remember that. And his brother had to tell him, stop your prattling, stop this nonsense of talking so much. Come to the subject matter. And if you think that this chapter is the easiest, you are mistaken. He is telling Jnaneshwar this. He is the guru of Sant Jnaneshwar. Nivrittinath is his name. Now Nivrittinath, who is the master of Sant Jnaneshwar, is telling him, don't talk too much. Come back to the subject and start opening the chapter and giving an exposition. But how can you give? Sant Jnaneshwar very sweetly replies, when your hand is on my head, and when I have such a great guru as you, I have taken these lessons from you. You will provide me with this profound knowledge, and I will be able to give the exposition. So these words will not be mine at all. They will be all yours. Such a beautiful way of explaining. Incidentally, Sant Jnaneshwar is none other than Krishna avatar. I know many people don't know about this. He is the Krishna avatar. Got it? And that is the reason why his elder brother, I'm sure you know who his elder brother is. Balram. That was Nivritti. They had taken this birth during this, couple of centuries ago, so that they can give the explanation and bring the people back into the fold of the spiritual. This chapter is all about getting you back into the fold of spiritual. So let us now begin this chapter. I have also to stop my prattling. So we are doing chapter 13 of the Bhagavad Gita, verse 1. Shri Bhagavan said, this body, Arjuna, is termed as the field, Kshetra, and he who knows it is called the knower of the field, that is Kshetrajna, by the sages discerning the truth about both. Those who are there with me for the Uddhav Gita Satsang, last evening we were doing, remember very clearly, this is where we were stuck. We are going to take the last, the second last chapter, I think, forward in the coming few days' time. But this is where we were. The idea whether the soul and the body, these two. The question asked by Uddhava over there was the relative existence of these both. Remember? Here, Krishna is telling Arjuna the relative existence of both. He is giving an understanding that there are two things which you need to know. One is called the field and the second one is called the knower of the field. Now what is this field? This field is this body of ours, this body. Now the body is the field and the person who is the knower, he knows this, knowledgeable, the knowledge base is called the knower of the field. somebody who knows this thing. He has got knowledge. I know I have to give some examples. So let me give you one example. Silly and stupid example. You know, there is a controversy going on in the cricket. You see, the controversy is that the Indians develop their pitches. Those who understand cricket will know this is what I am talking about. They develop the pitches, the land over there on which they play the game. Only for their benefit. See, in India, right from donkey's years, we never had fast bowlers. Okay? The fastest of the bowlers were with West Indies and Australia and all those countries. India never had fast bowlers. So you have to develop a pitch, the field, in such a manner so that we can do spin bowling and other types of bowling. So India used to develop pitches in which you have to train our own people so they know the field. They know how to bowl. Okay? So they are the knowers of the field, and the field is this playing ground. I know this sounds like a very silly example, but you see, I have to give some examples for you to understand. Most of our players used to be short guys, very short fellows. Now, and because these people were so short, now if you know the people, the bowlers from other countries, they would either throw a bouncer or throw a ball at these people, our Indians, and it would always go over their head because they were short guys. The biggest example is Gavaskar and Sachin Tendulkar and all that. So most of them had not developed the tact of handling these kind of bowlers. So why not develop a field where the ball will come very low and they can play properly? So it used to be a very funny thing. During my heydays when I was very young in Mumbai, I used to go to this Wankhede stadium, and before that I would go to another stadium. And there deliberately the pitches were made like that, okay, which were catering to the Indian audience. And it was very funny. So coming back to this, so Krishna is telling Arjuna, see, now I am going to give you the knowledge about this body of yours. You have a body, Arjuna, and the body has somebody who is knowledgeable about the body. So body is Kshetra. Kshetra means a field. And the person who has knowledge is called the knower of the field. So did you get this? It's a very simple understanding right now. So as we progress, it is going to become a little tougher. So the sages discerning the truth know both these things. It is the sage who knows these things. Common man has very little understanding. The reason is because he is so engrossed in his day-to-day life that he has no time to think about this kind of esoteric subjects. Funnily, human beings are completely immersed in what they are doing. Now see the attendance today. There is nobody there, hardly one person. The reason is because for the whole world, this is a boring subject. Till they don't get hurt, till they don't get upset, till their world doesn't come to an end, till these people don't get tight slaps by destiny, till a man doesn't get literally bent backwards and, completely, he doesn't care for spirituality at all. He is bothered about food, taking care of the family, money matters, lust, greed. These are the only things that he is mattering about. He believes that, oh, I have to earn a living, I have to take care of my wife, my children, my this, my that. When we started the Bhagavad Gita, there would be a lot of people who would be sitting and listening to this satsang. Today, the same people have become so busy in their life that they don't have time. It has become one of the worst things in their life. But tomorrow, believe me, spirituality is not a subject that you can, think that it is some worthless kind of a subject. The same thing, the knower of the field, the spiritual master, the sage, he has the knowledge. When they get totally cowed, bent backwards, brought to their knees, they don't know where to turn to. Difficulties arise in their life. They are lying in the hospitals. They might be lying there at their deathbed. When their family has left them, when they have gone into complete isolation for whatever reason, they don't have a job, they don't have money, they don't have anything in the world. That time, they think of God because now they want relief. It's like, you see, in most of the countries, people were waiting for relief during this pandemic. Is the government giving us something? Because we don't have a job, we don't have money, we don't have this, we don't have that. So we are waiting for the dole. That is the thing. They will cling to this rope and they will want to drag themselves to spiritual, and then they want to know spirituality. By the way, they don't want to know spirituality. They don't want to know Krishna. They don't want to know. They would rather play, all those games possible. They know Holi, very beautiful festival. And then they will say, oh, we are going to the temple, Krishna temple, and there we will play Holi also. Throw color on each other. Why? Krishna is all about throwing color. I have heard people in the north, every time when they meet everybody, they will say Radhe Radhe. Not knowing this much also about Radhe or Krishna. They can by heart the entire Bhagavad Gita, but not a word can go in their brains. Their body doesn't even have any iota of understanding or knowledge. You can be dancing away to glory. You can be singing songs also. You can keep on saying Radhe Radhe. You can say Krishna Krishna also. Doesn't change anything. The idea is you need to know God. And right now people don't seem to have the need to know God. They only need to know play games, earn money, busy in their material world, and this is the reason, one of the very, very crucial reasons why this is the last of what I am going to do. Once I finish the Bhagavad Gita, because Uddhav Gita is coming to an end. Once Bhagavad Gita is over, I will not be doing active satsangs like this online. Simply because man is too engrossed in his world. And I am not interested in teaching those who are too much involved in their material worldly stuff. They can give me as many reasons as they want. They can give me a reason of their father, mother, brother, sister, wife, job, this, that, pandemic, you name it, all kinds of things. It really doesn't matter. Because nobody wants to be saved. But a time will come when they will want. And that time, there will be no one. So let us come back to this. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, Arjuna, this is what it is. The body is the field, the kshetra. And in the body is called the knower of the field, the one who knows this body. Only the sages know about this. A common man, a practical human being, doesn't have any knowledge. So, we go to verse 2. We are doing chapter 13, verse 2 of the Bhagavad Gita. Know myself to be the Kshetrajna, the individual soul in all the Kshetras, the fields, Arjuna. And it is the knowledge of the field, that is the Kshetra, and the knower, Kshetrajna. which I consider as true knowledge. He starts this verse by saying, I am the Kshetrajna, the knower of the field. I am the one who is knowledge incarnate. Krishna is knowledge incarnate. He is the one who knows everything. Being knowledge incarnate, doesn't he know everything? So Krishna is the knower of everything, the knower of the field. Do you know what is going to happen tomorrow in your life? You have no clue. Do you know even 5 hours from now or 10 hours from now what is going to happen? You have no clue. What is going to be there in the future? Nobody has any clue. The idea that human beings, they think that they can continue like this forever and ever are mistaken. Every 500 years, there is a complete upheaval, total upheaval, which appears in this world. Somewhere in the 5th century, everything was destroyed. You will wonder, am I saying the right thing or no? I am telling you. Everything dropped below 0 degrees. What would have remained over there? Nothing. Across the whole world. Somewhere in the 10th or 11th century, a different thing happened. Now like that, we have really reached a point where a very big upheaval is there. This was only a trailer. Pandemic was only a trailer, just a small glimpse of what is there in store for us. I am not a doomsday sayer. My job is to tell you that your job is to know this spiritual, know Krishna. Because nobody knows when they are going to be alive or dead. You can try whatever you want to. You can take injections, you can try whatever that you wish to. You can store your bodies in deep freeze for eons in nitrogen. Doesn't matter. There is nothing in this world that can, revive you. You will be dead. Then what is the use? You will be born as some other creature. Or you may be just hanging around like a ghost. Who knows? So it is very critical that this is the time to know. First, know who is Krishna. Krishna says, I am the knower of the field. I am knowledge incarnate of all the fields. Every person, living thing on this planet Earth, a bird, an animal, a human being, or whatever, a fish, doesn't matter. I am the knower of all these things. I have the knowledge of everything because I am the one who oversees this whole thing, this process by itself. The process is critical. You can come up with whatever stories that you wish to, thinking that, oh, I will go to the moon and establish a colony over there. It all started way back in time when the Russians sent their aircraft, their spacecraft in outer space. The first astronaut was called Yuri Gagarin. Now Yuri Gagarin went in outer space. The Americans got very upset. Oh my God, how can the Russians lead this whole race? So they said, we will also go. So they started their own programs. The Apollo. And then before that they had another one. They finally landed on the moon. They were very happy. And then as usual, everybody thinks, right from Isaac Asimov to everybody will be, oh, we are going to have this, we are going to make a colony and stuff like that. What happened? No money. No money to go anywhere. Okay, no water. You can give as many reasons as you want. No water, no air, nothing. How will we stay over there? Now the Chinese are there. They want to capture everything. And there is Elon Musk. He also feels that he can build space colonies. Who knows about it? Do you think Elon Musk can do it? There is no way of knowing all these things. Because somebody in the future will do. There is this uncertainty in life is so much. There is no way you can be certain that you can do this. And believe me, absolutely none. You do not even have the guarantee of doing anything. There is a very great magician in this world. His name is David Copperfield. Do you know about him? Now, David Copperfield has been doing magic for the last more than 50 or 60 years. People know about him quite a lot. He's a very great magician. If you go to Las Vegas, you can find him in MGM Grand. He is there, permanent fixture literally. Like earlier he was working somewhere else, but now 20 years he has been there. 2019 he did more than 650 shows per year in that 1 year. Naturally, in 2020, he would have signed a very big deal with them saying that, okay, I will do so many shows. But in the last whole year, he could do only 25. And the maximum audience that he ever had was 250. A person may dream of having massive audiences, may think of going all over the world, can dream of whatever he wants to. But one slap from destiny, one slap from Maya, the pandemic brought everything to ground level. He couldn't do it. You also take your own example. You may have had fantastic dreams. I want to do this, I want to do that. You think you can do it. This uncertainty in life cannot be countered by anything. You can have as much money as you want in the bank, and yet you cannot say what it is going to help you or not. You may say, I'm going to live for so many years. Sir, you are not even sure of anything. Do you know this chapter is going very slow now? Because this is an important chapter. And I am going to do it slowly. Listen to it verse by verse. Because if you do not understand the essence of this chapter, knowledge is so critical. That is what he says. I consider this as a true knowledge. You are not sure of anything. Don't you dare say that I know. You see? The word I know is a very dangerous word. People have the habit of saying, I know. They just rattle it as if, I know. Sir, you don't know anything. Only if you are Krishna can you say, I know. Nobody else has the right to say, I know. In MIT, there is a professor, Noam Chomsky. Now, he says that I know. After teaching for the last 60 years over here, I know. What does he know? Knowledge. I know what is knowledge. How can anybody know knowledge even in 60 years? No Noam Chomsky or nobody in this world has the knowledge. Even the sages have this much amount of knowledge. So somebody asked me, Do you know Sanskrit? Sorry. I said, I'm sorry. I don't know. Do you know the Bhagavad Gita, the Vedas, the Shastras? I said, I'm sorry, I don't know anything. If I say I know, I am the biggest fool of all. You have to say I don't know. So next time don't open your mouth wide and say, I know, I know, I know. That is your downfall. Only Krishna knows. Nobody else knows. Got it? Only Krishna knows. Nobody else knows. The knower of the field. Know myself to be Kshetrajna. In all the Kshetras, in every field, I am the knower. It is the knowledge of the field and knower which I consider as a true knowledge. The one who knows the field, everything around, your body included, the one that you are, that whoever you are, who is listening in. Krishna is the only one who knows that. Right from the smallest of the creature, an ant, to the biggest of the creature, their life story, to the planetary systems, the whole universe, to the atom. All knowledge is with one person only. That is Krishna. That is why he says, I am the knower of the field. I know this entire creation is my field alone. I am the only one who is the knower of the field. And if you have this understanding, then this understanding itself is called true knowledge. At least now you know. The arrogance and the ego which these people have. What arrogance? What is this? I know this, I know that, I know everything. The arrogance that a person has, the ego, the ahankara which he has, saying that I know everything, is the biggest dunce in the world. So knowing something is a petty thing in the material world. I know how to go and book a ticket. I know how to do this. I know this. I know that. I know. Sir, you hardly know anything. As much. Never say these words. So we now go to the next verse. So we are doing chapter 13, verse 3 of the Bhagavad Gita. What that field is and what is its nature, what are its modifications, and from what causes and what effects have arisen, and also who is its knower, Kshetrajna, is, and what is his glory. Hear all this from me in brief. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, he says, what is this field, this body of yours? The field. Now, let us say we are not talking to Arjuna. We are talking to this earth. What is this earth? What is this field? We are talking about your property. What is this field? Okay? We are talking about your life. What is this life all about? What is its nature? How does this life actually survive? What exactly happens? You want to know its nature, isn't it? You actually want to know the nature of everything. You will want to know, how does this thing work? What is going to be there tomorrow? What is going to happen now? Do I need this? Why do I need this? You know, these are basic questions in life. Don't you want to know the answers to that? So, these are the basic questions. The Kshetra, this body is also a Kshetra. So, I have given you the idea that this whole world is also a kshetra. The field is a playing field. Whole thing is a playing field. Right from the internet to your laptop, to the computers, to the phones, whatever. From that to the space, the outer space, the atmosphere, the land, the water, everything is the field. Whatever you can touch, feel, see and all those things is nothing but a field alone. So what is the nature of that? What are its modifications? Everything undergoes modifications. If I take you, for example, you are a human being. Are you not growing? Every day, every hour, every second you are growing. Take the case of your hair. You see, it grows. Doesn't it grow? You have white hair afterwards as you become old. See, black hair, white hair, no hair. It can be anything. Do you know anything about it? Do you know the nature, how it works? Do you know how its modifications come about? This is what the knowledge is all about. And from what causes and what effects have arisen? What is it that has caused it? Suppose you are undergoing some kind of a stressful situation right now. Maybe you are having a problem in your life, connected to other human beings, connected to your companies, your bosses, money matters or government issues, taxation, you name it. You may have health issues. Whatever the issues are you not interested in knowing what is it that caused it in the first place? There are some causes, isn't it? You can say, no, that, oh, my company is throwing me out because the company doesn't have money. The company has a problem. I am a mismatch to the job. You can give all these reasons, isn't it? So this is the reason, the cause, the why is this happening and the effect of it. What happens after this happens? If there is a cause, there is an effect also. You lose the job. You don't know what to do. Many people are going through stressful situations right now, connected to health, wealth, anything. Anything could be the issue. There is a cause, and the current thing is an effect of that cause. You are going through your troubles. So Krishna says, this is what I am going to tell. And also, who is the knower? Who is it that knows all these things? The only person I told you in the last verse is Krishna himself. There is nobody else who is the knower of this field. So don't you want to know him? It's like telling your, if you want to do some job, you have to know the boss, no? You see, if you go to a shop and you want to buy some, say, an iPad or a television set or a cell phone or something like that, you're going to go and buy. So when you're talking to the salesman over there, and salesman says, this is the price, okay? And then you say, I want a discount on it. The fellow says, no sir, we have only, this is the rate. This is the best rate I can offer you. See the words, that is the best rate I can offer you. So what is the next question that you will say? Get your boss. Isn't it what you will say? Get your boss so that I can negotiate with your boss, the one who has the control over the price. So you call the boss and you say, sir, I need this additional discount, and then you will get it, right? So knowing the boss is important, isn't it? So knowing this Kshetrajna is very, very important. The one who controls this, the whole universe around you, including your body, your mind, everything, he is a literary controller. He has got the knowledge of everything. How things are going to happen, what are they going to be doing, everything he has the knowledge. So isn't it important to know him first? I know the boss. So if I know the boss, then I can tell the boss, sir, I want this done. And don't you think your work will get done? And what is his glory? Glory means what? What are the things that he does? See, it is very important for us to glorify him, right? Always speak very highly about him. See, you have to praise the boss. So when you are going to buy this, say, a phone, so when you are talking to the boss, you have to first glorify him. Sir, I always buy from your store. Yours is the only store which gives me the best service. And I have seen you for last so many years, sir, you are doing really very well. The first name that comes to me is when I want to buy my phone, I come to you. Don't you say these words? You're trying to actually prep him up, isn't it? You praise him, isn't it? So what is Krishna saying? Isn't it important to glorify me? You have to speak about my glories. That is why the prayers are so important. Prayers is nothing but praises to the Lord. So when we praise him, God, you are the greatest, you are the best, you are the sweetest, I love you, you are like this, you are like, you better praise him, okay? So Krishna says, hear all this from me. Now hear all this from me. So we will go to the next verse now. So we are doing chapter 13, Bhagavad Gita, verse 4. The truth about the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna has been expounded by the seers in manifold ways. Again, it has been separately stated in different Vedic chants and also in the conclusive and the recent text of the Brahma Sutras. Now, you will wonder what is all this all about. This is all Krishna is saying. See, you should know one thing. I can tell you I am the boss, okay? I can tell you. I am Krishna, alright? But you will not accept me. Why? This is a very funny thing, You will not accept me. Why? You want endorsements. He is Krishna. He is the best, You want somebody to say that he is the best. A very funny situation came up. Now, I go to some village over here. They don't know me from Adam. They just look at my clothes and the way I am dressed and the way I look. And they start talking to me in a very regular fashion. Hi, hello sir, how are you, blah, 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 blah. They talk like that. So my disciples, they get very angry and upset. They say, Guruji, these people, they don't understand. They are deriding you. They don't understand how they speak to you. So I have to tell them, don't bother about it. You know why? Because they don't understand. You think by looking at my t-shirt and jeans and this kind of a hair and the way I drive my car and stuff like that, you think they will look at me as some Babaji? But tomorrow if I come wearing orange color clothes, with one peta on my head, with long beard, and looking very serene, no smile on my face. Typical Babaji. As if there are some pins sticking up my behind. And I do all those motions. Okay. The kind of a thing which all these Babajis will do. Then people will think that, oh, orange color clothes. Oh, he is saying all those things. I may have a mala in my hands. So that, see, when they want all the shosha in this business, they want to see the get-up, uniform of a Babaji. Then they start respecting. Otherwise, they will not respect a person. So looking at my attire, they will not bother. You know what? All these people, they are very small, simple human beings. They want to see miracles. They will not believe in Sai Baba, they will not believe in any of these great saints till they see miracles in their life. This is the funny part. So I said, you don't get upset or angry because they don't understand. They think the attire should be there. There should be at least 20 cohorts, chamchas we call them. They should be going back and front. They should be announcing, oh, so and so Swamiji is coming over here. And then there should be a big grand reception, and they will have the ceremony, and they will put up 2 candles on 2 sides, those big diyas on 2 sides. I saw somebody here only. The person who came looked like a Babaji, orange color clothes, and he was made to sit in one fancy chair with all gaddi and all that, and 2 nice, samais are lamps lit on 2 sides. Very big har was there. That means a garland was there, and they did all kinds of stuff. These people are not knowers of the truth. I can write and give you. They don't know anything from Adam, because it is not easy to know Krishna. So, endorsements are required. Krishna himself is telling you now. He says, if I come like a very, very ordinary person. You will look at me and say, hello Yadava, hello Krishna, hello, how are you? Yo dude, how are things with you? How is your Dwarka, or how is your Mathura? Hey, did you get me Mathura ka peda? They talk like this, not realizing whom they are talking to. So naturally Krishna is very smartly telling Arjuna, he says, you know what Arjuna? There are some people who endorse this. Though I am the knower of the field, just like I told these disciples of mine, don't bother your head about trying to make tom and say that this Guruji is there and he is like this, and because they don't understand. They are just petty human beings who want magic in their world. If I tell them, Tathastu, your wish will be there fulfilled, you will have children, you will have this, they only want this kind of nonsense. Yes, of course. Everybody wants this nonsense in their life. They want to see some magical stuff. They want to see some great, like David Copperfield, like that. He has to be dressed properly. He has to move around as if he's floating on the air. He has to have some grey hairdos and beards and stuff like that. All nonsense. Then only their belief comes. Krishna is a simple guy. You know what he says? He says, you should know I am the super boss of everything, but I don't need your endorsements. But because you are some petty human beings, that is why I am telling you the endorsements are given already. Who has given these endorsements? It has been separately stated. Okay, the seers. The seers means what? The sages and the saints are there. All these are sages and the saints. How many sages and saints were there in the past? Quite a lot of them were there. These guys have expounded on this issue. They have said, that I am telling you, I am guaranteeing you, Krishna is the only one. It's like they are giving some guarantee, certificate. Seers will say, Krishna is the ultimate guy, he knows everything. He is the super boss, he is the boss. He is that God also. God comes and stands in front of you today, you will still ask him for, can you prove it to me that you are God? This is our current yuga. People don't have any belief in anything. They want to see only some big halo, like that kind of a picture, funny kind of guys going around. So, endorsement is needed. Endorsement from seers, sages, saints. They tell the world, Krishna is the greatest. Krishna is the greatest. During the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there were hundreds of these kind of sages and saints who kept on saying Krishna is the greatest. Krishna is the greatest. Krishna is the greatest. They're all Vaishnavas. Okay? They were endorsing Krishna. They were writing stories about him. They were saying he is the greatest, he is the greatest, he is the greatest. So first and foremost, Krishna says, if you want to know this, Kshetra and Kshetrajna, who is the Kshetra? The field, Kshetrajna, me. So if who knows this first? The sages and the saints. They have written about it, or they may tell you about it. Then he says, it has been separately stated in different Vedic chants. The Vedas are eternal, no? They say, right? Eternal. So, the Vedas are there. In that the chants are there. Different chants, different suktas, different these, different... Too many of them. And everywhere it is written, yes, the super boss is so and so, the super boss is so and so. They have written over there. Will you not believe that? So you want proof, no? First proof is the sages will give you the proof. Second is it is written in the scriptures. Ancient scriptures. Vedas. Very long ago. It is written over there. So at least now you will start believing in me, isn't it? That this is the Kshetra. The field is this and I am the super boss of it. So second proof is given by the Vedas. In their different poems that are there. Alright. So they are there. They are chants. So many chants. You can hear all these people, they say the chants are going on in the temples, and when you do the puja and all that, they do the chants. So those guys will also be there. And then he says, and also in the conclusive and the reasoned text of the Brahma Sutras. Now these Brahma Sutras are literally like a very big headache, if you can understand. It is like, trying to learn advanced, physics or something like that. Okay, only couple of people will know, isn't it? Don't you think so? Huh? Some weird subject somewhere. Like, I don't know, very highly evolved mathematical equations. Who knows? I don't know. Now this blockchain and how these bitcoins and all these things are working, only few people can understand, no? So Brahma Sutras are like that. They're very heavy stuff. You will get a headache once you start reading them. Yeah, we have Brahma Sutras over here. Once somebody asked me, Guruji, can we do this Brahma Sutra? I said, of course we can do. Do you have the capacity to take it? If you don't have, don't ask me these kind of words, because it is very dangerous subject. It's like it will give you headache from day one. So here Krishna is telling you these three things are there. The third one is called the Brahma Sutra. And these are conclusive. Conclusive means they will give you a terminal statement. This is what it is. Like that. You have to accept it. It's like, the final endorsement given by the court saying, Khatam ho gaya tumhara case. Ja. Like that. Or maybe you have got a notarized thing. Or maybe you have got a certificate which says, okay, the university degree, the seal is there. Or the Prime Minister or the President has signed it. Like that, This is it. So Brahma Sutras are the conclusive text. And they are reasoned. There is reasoning in that. The Brahma Sutras give you absolutely good reasons. Why there is a Kshetra, there is a Kshetrajna. Both these I will tell you. So this is what the Brahma Sutras say. So three things. First is the sages and the saints have endorsed this. Second, the Vedas talk about it. The third, it is written in the conclusive text of the Brahma Sutras. These are reasoned conclusive text of the Brahma Sutras. They tell you exactly what is Kshetra and Kshetrajna, the absolute truth about these two things. So we have come to the end of verse 4. So in the evening today, we will be working on verse 5 onwards. I know today's session must have been extremely heavy for you, but I am sure those who pay attention may understand a little bit. Take care, have a great day, and I will see you all in the evening. Bye.